Heavenly Stories.
In the heart of the ancient land of Shinar, where the golden sun kissed the fertile plains and the Tigris and Euphrates whispered secrets of old, humanity's ambition burned brighter than ever. People gathered from distant corners of the world, their hearts beating as one with a singular dream, to build a tower that would reach the heavens. Every stone laid was not just brick upon brick, but a testament to human pride, ingenuity, and the longing to make a name for themselves. From dawn till dusk, the city buzzed with a fever of construction. Carpenters carved, masons molded, and architects sketched plans with fervent determination. The air was thick with dust, sweat, and anticipation. Among them was Eliam, a young visionary whose eyes sparkled with relentless ambition. He climbed the scaffolding every day, whispering to the wind that one day, their tower would touch God himself. But there was a subtle tension under the bustling energy, a whisper of unease that traveled among the people. Some spoke of humility and fear, reminding others that the heavens were beyond mortal reach. Yet, the lure of glory drowned out caution. Every time the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a fiery glow over the growing tower, the people felt invincible. "Look at what we can achieve together," they proclaimed, lifting their voices into the sky, challenging fate itself. The elders of the city, who had seen the rise and fall of empires, watched silently. They understood the allure of pride and the peril it often carried. But the people were too absorbed in their grand designs, too intoxicated by their unity and ambition, to heed warnings. They laughed at old tales of divine judgment and scoffed at the stories of gods who humbled mortals. Their unity was powerful, yes, but the question lingered: could ambition blind them so completely that they would dare challenge the natural order? As night fell, the tower's silhouette stretched across the horizon, a jagged monument against a canvas of stars. The people believed that each brick they laid brought them closer to immortality, closer to touching the divine. And yet, somewhere in the heavens, eyes watched with a mixture of sorrow and curiosity. The ambition of humanity was a fire, brilliant, but dangerously consuming. The story of the Tower of Babel is not just one of construction or rebellion, it is the story of humanity itself, the tension between pride and humility, between unity and chaos, between dreams that reach for the skies and the boundaries that must be respected. And as the first whispers of change stirred in the heavens, Eliam and his people had no idea that their greatest challenge was not engineering or labor, it was the divine plan that would test the very foundation of their unity. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months. The Tower of Babel soared higher, a testament to human ambition and ingenuity. Its shadow stretched across the plains of Shinar, a giant looming over the city like a promise, and a warning. Every day, Eliam climbed the scaffolding, feeling the wind whip against his face, the cold bite of stone beneath his fingers, and the rush of possibility in his chest. "We are making history," he whispered to the wind. "One day, they will remember us forever." People from all over the land worked together, their voices blending into a symphony of purpose. They shared a common language, a common dream. Merchants carried supplies from distant lands, and craftsmen brought skills passed down through generations. They laughed, they argued, they celebrated milestones with fire and music. This unity, this shared vision, made them feel unstoppable. But not everyone was comfortable with the pride that filled the air. Some mothers clutched their children tighter as they watched the tower rise higher than the tallest trees. Some elders shook their heads, muttering warnings about hubris and the folly of humans who dare challenge the heavens. "The skies are not ours to reach," one elder said quietly. "The gods watch. And pride comes before the fall." Eliam ignored them. He was consumed by the vision of a tower that could pierce the clouds, that could declare to the heavens that humanity would not be contained by fear or limitation. At night, he would lie awake on the highest scaffolding, gazing at the stars and dreaming of a world where humanity's name would be remembered forever. The tower had become more than a building, it had become a symbol, a heartbeat of ambition that pulsed through every soul in the city. But the higher they built, the more the winds of doubt began to blow. Arguments broke out among workers. Disagreements over design, over resources, over leadership, began to stir cracks in their unity. The very thing that had made them strong, their shared purpose, was starting to falter. And high above, in the quiet of the night, the heavens themselves stirred. A whisper, gentle yet undeniable, seemed to ripple through the skies, a presence unseen but deeply felt. It was neither anger nor punishment, at least, not yet. It was an acknowledgement that the ambition of mortals had reached a critical point, a moment where human pride and divine order were on a collision course. Every brick they laid carried with it more than weight, it carried the risk of undoing everything. And then came the first confusion. Words, once clear and shared among all, began to lose their power. Instructions were misheard. Tasks were misunderstood. Arguments erupted over things that had seemed simple yesterday. Slowly, imperceptibly, the unity that had fueled their tower began to crumble. Ilium, perched atop the scaffolding, noticed the growing frustration, the way hands shook with exhaustion, the way eyes darted with uncertainty. But he clung to hope, to the dream of greatness. "We can fix this," he told himself. "We are stronger than any challenge." Little did he know, the challenge was no ordinary obstacle, it was a turning point that would change the fate of humanity forever. The Tower of Babel, a monument to unity and ambition, was about to become the epicenter of confusion and division. And in that moment, every person who had believed in the dream would be forced to confront the limits of human pride. The sun rose over Shinar, painting the sky in streaks of gold and crimson, but a strange tension hung in the air. The people gathered at the base of the tower, their voices louder, sharper, more fragmented than ever before. What had once been a single, harmonious language, a song of unity, was beginning to crack. Words that yesterday carried meaning now seemed to vanish into the wind. Commands were misinterpreted. Misunderstandings sparked arguments, and arguments spiraled into anger. Ilium stood at the summit, his hands gripping the rough stone, looking down at the chaos below. He had seen this coming, perhaps, in quiet moments of doubt, but he never imagined the depth of confusion that could arise. The masons argued with carpenters. The builders shouted at architects. Instructions were ignored or twisted. The rhythm that had carried them to such heights was dissolving, leaving only fear and frustration in its wake. The skies above seemed to pulse with a silent judgment. Ilium raised his eyes, searching the heavens for answers. And then, as if the air itself had become heavy with intention, a whisper traveled through every heart, a presence so profound that it could not be ignored. It was the unmistakable voice of something greater, something eternal. A realization struck Ilium with the force of lightning: their unity, their pride, their ambition, all of it had attracted the gaze of the divine. One by one, the workers began to speak in tongues they did not understand. Simple words turned into foreign sounds, sentences shattered into nonsense, and the once unstoppable hum of construction slowed to a chaotic murmur. Panic spread like wildfire. Hands froze mid-motion, eyes widened with fear, and the towering scaffolding that had once symbolized hope now trembled under the weight of misunderstanding. Families were separated in the confusion. Friends could no longer communicate. Ilium ran down the scaffolding, shouting names, but his words fell flat, incomprehensible to those he loved. Every brick that had been placed with precision now carried a new burden, the weight of human limitation, the fragility of pride in the face of divine power. The tower, once a beacon of unity, was now a monument to confusion and disorder. Ilium felt a deep sorrow settle in his chest. This was not just a failure of construction, it was a lesson in humility, a reminder that ambition unchecked by wisdom and reverence could crumble everything. Yet, even amidst the chaos, a strange clarity emerged. People began to look inward, to see not enemies in each other, but reflections of their own pride. They realized that the dream that had once united them had also blinded them to their limitations. And as the sun set that evening, casting long shadows across the half-built tower, Ilium understood a truth he would never forget: greatness is not measured by how high one can build, but by the humility and wisdom one carries in the journey. The Tower of Babel, soaring and unfinished, stood as both a warning and a lesson, a testament to the power of ambition and the necessity of divine guidance. Sparkles, can humanity recover from this chaos? The next chapter reveals how the people of Shinar will face the consequences of their pride, and how a divine plan will transform their world forever. The sun rose over Shinar, but the city no longer hummed with life. The once vibrant streets were filled with confusion, whispers of fear, and the heavy silence of uncertainty. The Tower of Babel, majestic and jagged against the skyline, now stood as a stark reminder of ambition unchecked. Its walls seemed taller than ever, yet hollow, echoing with the cries of misunderstanding. Eliam wandered through the city, heart pounding, eyes searching for familiar faces. He found friends speaking in languages he could no longer understand, families struggling to communicate, and leaders overwhelmed by the chaos that had overtaken their people. What had once united them, their shared dream, was now shattered, like fragile glass. Every voice he heard carried a different sound, a new tone, an alien rhythm. And with it came fear, frustration, and helplessness. The elders of Shinar gathered in the city square, their voices trembling as they tried to restore order. "We cannot remain together in this state," one elder said, his voice heavy with sorrow. "The unity that was our strength has become our undoing. We must scatter, spread across the earth, and rebuild in ways that respect the limits of man." The people listened, not fully understanding the words, yet feeling the weight of truth. The divine intervention had not only broken their language, it had altered their destiny. Eliam climbed to the base of the tower one last time, touching the rough stones that had once symbolized hope and ambition. Memories of laughter, music, and shared dreams flooded his mind. But he also felt the sting of pride and the lesson it carried. The tower, incomplete yet towering, was no longer a monument to human glory, it was a lesson etched in stone and heart alike. As families prepared to leave, a profound sense of both loss and possibility settled over the land. People would carry fragments of their shared culture, but they would now live apart, speak different languages, and forge new paths. What had been one people was now many nations, scattered across the earth. Yet even in their scattering, there was a hidden beauty, the chance to grow, adapt, and learn humility, the chance to honor the divine order that had shaped their destiny. Eliam stood on a hill overlooking the city, watching the people disperse like rivers branching into countless streams. His heart ached, but he understood that this was not punishment, it was guidance. The dream of reaching the heavens had been too vast for human hands alone, but the lesson of unity, pride, and humility would endure. In that moment, he realized that God's plan for humanity was not to destroy their dreams but to teach them the balance between ambition and reverence, pride and humility, unity and diversity. And as night fell over Shinar, the Tower of Babel loomed in the darkness, a silent witness to the birth of nations, the scattering of peoples, and the enduring lesson that pride without wisdom can never touch the heavens. The story of humanity was forever changed, its destiny rewritten by a force far greater than any one man or city. Globe showing Europe-Africa, curious how this scattering shaped the world we know today. The next chapter unveils the beginnings of civilization, languages, and the intricate tapestry of humanity, born from ambition, tempered by divine wisdom. The land of Shinar grew quiet, yet life could not be silenced. People moved in every direction, carrying with them the fragments of a once united world. Each group spoke a different language, yet the memory of the tower and the dream it represented lingered in their hearts. They walked into unknown lands, uncertain yet determined, their minds echoing with the lessons of pride and ambition. Eliam traveled with a small group, his heart heavy but enlightened. Every new village they entered, every person they met, was both a challenge and a teacher. Misunderstandings were frequent, yet they learned patience. Confusion became a bridge to creativity, gestures, symbols, songs, and stories became tools to connect. What had been a punishment slowly revealed itself as an unexpected blessing. Humanity, once confined by a single city and a single dream, now had the chance to grow in diversity, innovation, and resilience. As the years passed, Eliam reflected on the tower, its towering stones forever etched in his memory. It had been a monument of human pride, yes, but it had also ignited an awareness of limits, responsibility, and humility. Every brick had carried a lesson, that ambition without reverence could crumble, yet ambition guided by wisdom could build a legacy that no divine intervention could erase. Children listened in awe to stories of the tower, their imaginations alight with wonder and curiosity. From those tales arose new dreams, smaller yet wiser, inspired by both caution and courage. The elders taught them to honor the sky, to respect the unknown, and to pursue greatness with balance. Ilium watched as the next generation learned to speak, create, and build, not just for glory, but for purpose and unity within diversity. And slowly, across lands and mountains, rivers and valleys, the scattered people began to form communities. Languages multiplied, yet so did understanding. Traditions were born from shared memories, and the tale of the tower became a cornerstone of human history, a story whispered by the wind, carved into stone, and carried in hearts everywhere. The dream of reaching the heavens had transformed. It was no longer a challenge to the divine, but a challenge to human potential, a spark that would ignite innovation, art, culture, and civilization itself. Ilium stood on a hill, looking back at the distant silhouette of the Tower of Babel. Its stones glimmered faintly in the twilight, a reminder of what once was and what could be learned. He smiled, understanding that the divine plan had not destroyed their spirit, it had expanded it. Humanity's unity had been tested, fractured, and reshaped, but in that reshaping lay the foundation for growth, for empathy, and for the extraordinary diversity of the world that would come. Sparkles want to discover the final truth about the tower's legacy. The next and final chapter reveals the profound impact on humanity, the birth of nations, and the enduring message that pride and ambition, when tempered with humility, can shape destiny in ways even the tallest tower never could. Centuries had passed since the stones of the Tower of Babel first touched the skies, yet its story echoed across every corner of the earth. Ilium, now older, his hair streaked with silver and his eyes wiser from years of wandering, stood on a hill overlooking a valley where children laughed in languages he no longer understood. The tower had crumbled long ago, yet its lessons were immortal, etched into the hearts of humanity. People had scattered, yes, but in that scattering, something miraculous had emerged. New nations were born. Cultures flourished, rich and unique. Languages multiplied like branches of a vast tree, each carrying stories, wisdom, and dreams. What had begun as a symbol of pride and human ambition had transformed into a monument of divine guidance, a reminder that greatness comes not from the height of stone towers, but from the depth of understanding, compassion, and humility. Ilium reflected on the journey. He remembered the exhilaration of building, the joy of unity, and the dizzying heights of ambition. But he also remembered the confusion, the arguments, the fear that spread when words no longer bridged hearts. Those experiences had changed humanity forever. They had taught that pride, unchecked, can blind even the strongest minds, yet humility, when embraced, can turn disaster into wisdom and separation into opportunity. Across the lands, stories of the tower were told and retold. Each generation interpreted them differently, yet the core truth remained: ambition must be balanced with respect, unity is precious but fragile, and divine guidance often works in ways humans cannot immediately see. The tower had become a legend, a moral compass, a spark for imagination, invention, and cultural growth. Its shadow no longer loomed over Shinar, but over the hearts of every person who dared to dream, reminding them that ambition is powerful, but wisdom makes it eternal. Ilium watched a group of children playing nearby, building small towers of mud and stone. They laughed as one collapsed, quickly rebuilding it together. He smiled, understanding that humanity had learned the most important lesson: collaboration, tempered by humility, could create beauty and legacy far greater than any single tower reaching the sky. The world had grown more diverse, more resilient, and more wondrous because of the lesson carved by the divine. And in that moment, Ilium felt a profound peace. The Tower of Babel was no longer a symbol of failure or confusion, it was a testament to human potential and divine guidance, a story that reminded all who heard it: dreams are precious, ambition is powerful, but humility and unity are the keys that make them endure. The tower may have fallen, but its lessons would never be forgotten. Glowing star, curious how the story of Babel still shapes our world today. From the languages we speak to the cultures we celebrate, the tower's legacy lives on. This is the story of ambition, unity, and wisdom, a reminder that even in our greatest dreams, humility can light the path to true greatness.